We're back for another episode of the Rugby Show live here on finalwhistle.ie. On tonight's show, I'll be joined by Justin Middleton to discuss Division 1A and 1B of the AIL, and Diarmuid Kearney to talk Division 2A, 2B and 2C. Ballina's Mickey Murphy and Naas' Peter Osbourne will also join me tonight to talk about their upcoming playoff games in the AIL. We are now joined by AIL commentator and expert Justin Middleton. Justin, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Luke. Great to be here for a second time.
And what a weekend we have ahead of us. And we have to start off with Division 1A. And there's two games, especially in them semi-finals, with bags of potential for tries and real entertaining games. We'll start off with Kearney and Lansdowne. What do you think is going to happen?
That's, well, you can argue that every single game is interesting, but Kearney Lansdowne is a fascinating one. If you just go and look, and I know it's basically knockouts, right? So everything goes out the window, but psychologically, I don't think it does. If you go and look at Kearney's season, so their first 4 games they won 1. Their next 14, they won 13 out of the 14. If you go and look at Lansdowne, they had 3 wins, 1 loss, 1 win, 1 loss, 4 wins, loss, 2 wins, 2 losses, 1 win, 2 loss. Right? They're quality team, Lansdowne, but they're up and down, and that's also partly probably because they've had a lot of movement in their teams, or in their side. Sorry. If you look throughout the course of the season, for example, when the 20s were playing and they lost Charlie Tector, and they haven't really been settled just because of the depth they have in their squad. And that's maybe just due to rotation, but also due to Irish 20s. If you look at their head-to-head this season, so in round 2, that's when Lansdowne beat Kearney. It was 39 points to 26, and then a few weeks ago, Kearney beat Lansdowne at the Viva. So both teams have won away in their fixtures. I think you'd have to say on the season alone and on the form card, Kearney are clear favourites. But there's something in me suggests that when I think like that, I think I'm almost wrong, because something's telling me that Lansdowne just kind of know what to do in the knockout stages. And Kearney, with their form, I think they're expected to win. The expectations on Kearney to win this match. For Lansdowne, they're going to try to disrupt the events. They're going to try to disrupt the party. It's going to be an event. It's going to be like a carnival-like atmosphere at Lakelands. But I just wonder if the occasion might get to Kearney. I think they've been in 2 previous semi-finals, Kearney, in the past 5 or 6 years, before the pandemic. And I think they've had 2 semi-finals at home and they lost both. Obviously sides and squad changes, but it's history sometimes does repeat itself. I think Kearney have had the better season. Kearney should win. I think it would be a gamble. Well, you'd be a betting man to just go bet on Lansdowne. But we do know that Lansdowne have quality. They have such good players. Their game plan is amazing. When they get into that red zone, they're clinical, but they've also been inconsistent. So it's going to be interesting to see which Lansdowne side pitches up in Lakelands, and they might just thrive in that atmosphere, in that environment, and something might just, spark them on to just basically disrupt the party. So that's going to be very interesting. But just to sum things off on that game, Kearney are favourites.
Yeah, and that definitely has all the ingredients to be a classic of a game. And then to the other semi-final, first place Clontarf at home to Cork Con. Clontarf, they've done the double over Cork Con in the league campaign. Do you see it going anyway other than a Clontarf win?
It's a little bit similar to the Kearney, the Anselm game. So Clontarf won 13 in a row. Cork Con have only won 10 out of their 18 games. Tarf have beaten, like you've said, they've beaten Cork Con twice this season. And I think, you'd be foolish to suggest that Clontarf are not favourites at Castle Avenue. I know they will lose Alex Soroka and Hawkshaw because I think they're going on South African tour. That's 2 players gone. But I mean, the rest of their team is amazing. Like they've still got the depth if they've lost 1 or 2 players. But having said that, Cork Con they also just know what to do and they know how to win. And they're the current champions. I think it was the 2016-2017 season when Cork Constitution were 4th place, like they were now, like they are now, and they went on to actually win the semi-final and beat Clontarf. I think it was 25 points to 21 at the Viva. And they've got players: Aidan Moynihan, Duncan Williams, Billy Crowley, Sean French, Luke Carl. There's some quality players there, so they could upset Clontarf. But I think Clontarf are going to probably take it. Yeah,
they definitely will be hard bet, especially at Castle Avenue, and I think that could be one game where the home advantage could really help, and I imagine there'll be the whole of Clontarf be able to back the lads. And then moving down to the relegation playoff, UCC against Ballina Hinch. Obviously a 2-legged tie. They've beaten each other once. UCC won at Ballina Hinch and Ballina Hinch won at UCC. What way do you see that going?
I think Hinch should be favourites. I know they've only won 1 or 2 games the entire season, Hinch, but I think over the past 9 rounds they've just been better than UCC. Also, if you just look at the number of points that UCC have conceded, you're talking about 9th and 10th place here. It's quite difficult to argue who would be a favourite. So it's UCC at home first because they finished last, and then Hinch play UCC at home. Hinch play UCC at home the week thereafter. So I think Hinch should get through. But you know what? Like, there's a different sort of pressure in the relegation battle. And all of a sudden, it's quite difficult to argue. So 9th and 10th place, so they've basically, if you finish 10th, then you play at home first. But is that really an advantage? Like, you could argue yes and no. I think some people would rather play at home first and get a win, and then really put the pressure on the opposition. Because just say you finished in 9th place, like Hinch. Now you go to UCC and you lose. Okay, now you're back at home with your home crowd and you have to win. So there is
pressure on it. There's a lot of pressure, and it does go both ways. And have you been a bit surprised maybe with Hinch's performance in the league? They're normally a side that are further up in the table, and I think at the start of the season, not many people would have thought that they'd be down the bottom.
I'm a little bit surprised, but they had a few results just before Christmas that didn't go their way. I think there was a game where they almost beat Cork Con, and there was a few points in the final few seconds. They ended up losing the game. And there's a few other games like that where they were actually really competitive and they could have been on the winning side. And I think when you just don't get those wins when you need them, it just adds up. And then all of a sudden Christmas is here, and then you've got another 9 rounds to play, and you're like, where are our wins going to come from? And then you're playing teams like Clontarf and Kearney who just don't stop winning. And it can be a very difficult place. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's difficult to say whether I'm surprised at where they've finished, but I just think they've been unlucky with a few results, and that normally happens. There's always one or two sides who, if you even look at 1B, for example, with Malone, there's so many games and they got so many losing bonus points and they couldn't get on the other side and pick up wins. And then all of a sudden you're talking about a team. I know Malone, I think they finished in 8th place.
Yeah.
But if they had got those extra 2 or 3 wins mid-season, they might have won a few more because of the confidence. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think momentum really does have a huge role to play, especially in the AIL. And if you do get a few wins under the belt and get that confidence going, it will propel you up the table. And we go down then to Division 1B, and we have to start with Highfield and Shannon, two sides who have played some fantastic rugby. First game of the season ended in a 9-9 draw, and then a 6-0 win to Shannon. And notoriously low-scoring games, but I have a feeling it could be different this weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, that's another absolute blockbuster. So that's the Highfield at home at Woodley Park. And I think for Highfield, I don't know if they think this way or their supporters think this way, but I think that they've got to feel a little bit like frustrated to an extent, because in the first 9 rounds of the season, they're flying until they came up against Shannon. They were unlucky with the pandemic. They probably would have gone up that year. They beat Wesley at home before Christmas, and then all of a sudden they came to Shannon, and it disrupted their form. But I actually think what disrupted their form to an extent was they played Young Munster in a cup game just before Christmas, or was it 2 weeks before? I think it was just before they played Shannon. It might have been just after they played Shannon, but I think it was before they played Shannon in the league. And that was such a tight match. I think they lost by 7 points, and they gave it everything. And then they had Shannon as well, right, in the AIL. And then Shannon beat them, which no one really saw coming. And then they drew to Shannon. And then they had like a loss a week later against City of Armagh. And you could almost argue that Shannon was the cause of their sort of, you can't really say decline because they still finished second. But, just before they met Shannon, they were like 8 from 8, and they were above Wesley. And then Shannon came along and brought them down to earth. And although Shannon are playing away, they've just got a lot of quality. Jake Fannery, Aaron Hare, the scrum half, Declan Moore, the hooker, and their captain, Lee Nicholas? Yeah. So they've got the quality, and actually I think they might be the dark horse to actually win this entire 1B league and go up. So Highfield at home, it's a tough one to call, but if you just look at the last 9 rounds and with the way Shannon are building, whether they're home or away, something says, that Shannon might just take this one. But the quality, they beat Highfield once. They've drawn to them away at Woodley Park. And interesting, in the clashes between Highfield and Shannon, there's been no tries, I think. So,
you're right,
6-0 and 9-0. So it might be another fixture like that. But Shannon have a lot of quality, and they've been playing super well. And that was actually evidence against Wesley but Wesley did play us with a second side there, and I wonder whether that was the correct decision, especially when there was a week's break, because now Old Wesley's first choice team haven't played for 3 weeks. So it's always hindsight's an exact science, but 3 weeks with no rugby for their first side, I don't know. It's either going to work or it's not going to work.
And that could play a huge factor in the game against Naas. And I was only thinking it myself when I saw the side that they put out against Shannon. Wesley, they've beaten Naas twice this season. But I think Naas, they could cause an upset, and they do have what it takes, and they've shown over the season that they can beat the big boys. I think that they did the double over Shannon. They beat Highfield once. Do you think Naas could upset Old Wesley, or do you think it's Wesley's to lose?
So, just based on the form of the season, Wesley are complete favourites. Playing on their at home at Energia Park, fast pitch. They know what they're doing. They haven't lost there for, I think it's 2 seasons. It was, I think the last time they lost there was actually against Shannon back in the 2019-2020 season, February. So that was the last time they lost at home on that pitch. Then you also just look at the season. They won 16 out of 18, and they've beaten Naas twice. So according to that, like, no chance. But I just wonder if that's 61 points to 12. It was 61 points to 12, I think, the loss. Right? Even though Wesley's first choice players, most of them weren't playing, I just wonder if that's maybe caused a bit of a momentum shift. And for Naas, like, they've got nothing to lose. And they smashed Old Belvedere. They put out a proper side, Naas, in that game, and they obviously had to win it. And they're not expected to win. So they can just go there and play ball, and you never know, Wesley might start to feel nervous. So I would be surprised if Naas did win. I don't think they'll win, but they will believe. They'll certainly believe that they can go and do it. And what a cracking season they've had, because when the pandemic stopped the 2019-2020 season, they were 9th in 1B. So it just shows you, and they actually lost the Old Belvedere in the opening game of the season. So they've had some season. Maybe struggled for a bit of consistency, but that's being harsh to say that. So
yeah, and
they've been brilliant.
That's on the rise, and even with consecutive kind of promotions over the last few years, I think they're definitely building towards the right stuff. And it's definitely, I think, between 1B and 2B, they're definitely the most competitive leagues that we've seen, maybe. And I think out of them 4 teams, you could really pick any of them to go up, and it would nearly be fully deserved with the performances. And then down at the bottom, he's Navan against Banbridge. Malone did just survive. Do you think Banbridge will be too strong for Navan over the 2 games? They've beaten each other once each already, but what way do you think that's going to go?
Banbridge favourites, just in terms of their team, and I know they finished 9th. It's 1 place ahead of 10th, but they've had quite a few good performances. However, Navan beat City of Vermont twice this year, and Navan start off at home. They could win at home. It's possible. And then it's really on. But I think Banbridge should take it. And just in terms of 1B, I think Old Wesley need to win 1B. They've done everything right. Everything's with them. And I feel that if they don't win, it'll just be very disappointing for a fantastic season for Old Wesley. But it's going to be interesting to see who replaces, Navan or Banbridge with Queen's University, because I think they've also had a really good season. Obviously, I haven't covered much of 2A, but I've just seen they've won like 15 out of 18 games, and it's a little bit similar when you look at 1A, 1B, 2A. There's a side right at the top by quite a comfortable cushion.
But it means nothing this year, of course, with the new rules and only one going up. Queen's University have been terrific in Division 2A, but there's still other sides, your Ballina, Buccaneers, that could cause an upset. And I think this weekend is going to definitely be a classic for anyone involved and anyone watching. And we'll have to catch up next week then, Justin, to see who will be playing in the finals. See if your predictions are being true. It's
going to be, you can, if you go according to statistics and current form, you can quite clearly pick the favourites who should win, but anything can happen. And in 1A and 1B, they're just brilliant semi-finals, and all that hop us to. So you can only really watch one, especially if only one game is. Well, the Old Wesley Naas game will be streamed. Wesley do all their home games, and then it looks like the Tyranny Lansdowne game is streamed as well. So you might be able to watch those two at the same time, but you can only be at Clontarf or Cork Con or Highfield versus Shannon if you're looking at 1A and 1B. So all that thing, it's like almost like a final weekend of the Premier League.
It really is. It really is. And hopefully it'll be just as entertaining. Justin, thanks so much for coming on the show, and we'll have to link next week.
Cool. Cheers, Luke. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Joining us now is Naas captain Peter Osbourne. Peter, welcome to the Rugby Show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
And obviously a huge game at the weekend. How are preparations going for the game against Old Wesley?
Yeah, good so far. We have training tonight, and then our last session will be on Thursday. So, just to, tidy up a few little bits. But no, prep is going well. We finished the regular season against Old Belvedere 2 weeks ago, and then we did down week last week. Just trained twice, and then train twice again this week, today and Thursday, and all geared towards Saturday. So far so good.
And Old Wesley, obviously a team you know very well from playing them this season, and results haven't really gone your way against them in the previous fixtures. Do you think that might help you maybe for this weekend and knowing where you need to improve compared to the other games?
Yeah, they're very strong, and they've been sitting up number one at the table for majority of the season, so they're exceptionally strong. And as you say, the two games we played against them this year, they beat us twice. But they're we can only do what we know and stick to our own. We can't be worrying too much about the opposition. They're also very dangerous up on the 4G pitch up in Donnybrook. They like to move the ball wide, and the speed of that pitch increases a bit, being an artificial pitch. So we know we have to be on top for a game to be in with a chance. But that's the challenge, and very much looking forward to it.
And is that something that you kind of do collectively as a group? Maybe focus on where the other sides are very strong and try to match that as well as implement your own game plan?
Yeah, kind of, but we try more just think about ourselves and try not to worry too much about the opposition, because we know when we're on form, we can beat any team in this league. So we try not to worry too much about the opposition, but we do know, that we need to be very disciplined. We need to hold on to the ball. Any loose ball, they'll pounce on it and they'll attack, and they can score from anywhere in the pitch. So, but we try, and that's kind of been the kind of goal for the season, is just to focus on ourselves. And we know if we can get our own prep right and mentally in the right place, that whoever we play, we're in with a shot of winning. So nothing, that'll be the same for this week.
And you mentioned that there about kind of being able to compete with, obviously, who are seen to be the best in the league, and you've beaten Shannon twice, Highfield once this season. Does that really give you great confidence ahead of the upcoming game?
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, absolutely. Shannon and Highfield were both near the top of the table throughout the season, so knowing that we've beaten them gives us confidence. But again, it's going to be on the day as well, and we know we have to perform. So Wesley have beaten both of those sides as well, so it doesn't make us any stronger than they are. We know we need to put it all together now. Hopefully the day will be nice, and a good dry day on Donnybrook, and as I say, they'll want to play and move the ball around, and so do we. So hopefully we'll shape up to be a good match.
And if I can take you back to the start of the season, did you meet as a group collectively and maybe set out goals for what you want for the season and what would make it a successful campaign?
Yeah, we did. We sat down back in early September, and we kind of, we had a squad of probably 40, then a full senior squad, and lads gave their opinions and what their goals and individual goals and collective goals. And of course it's easy, and you always want to say you want to finish first, but that's easier said than done. But definitely getting into the playoffs and securing a playoff spot was definitely a main goal of ours, because once you're in the playoff, who knows what can happen. So we've ticked that off the list now, and now it's now try to get the other goal, which is but we only take it one step at a time. As I say, we got the playoff, and now we're into this match, and we'll see what happens after that.
And as you said there, obviously a very big squad, and how important is it to have that squad depth and competition for places throughout the season?
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. we Tuesdays, we kind of come all together, and Johnny splits us up into different teams, and we go against each other, and the competitive edge in training is really what brings us through onto Saturdays and preps us. So even the last few weeks when the J1s were kind of finishing up their season, they're still down training, and tonight, last week, hopefully we'll still have 35-40 guys there, it's brilliant for us, because going out and training when there's only the squad of 23 or 25, it's very hard to get anything done. So, and that's why it's going to be a squad effort. Unfortunately, only 21 or 20 can be involved on the match day squad, but it is, it's a full senior squad effort. And, they have to get a lot of praise, and it's kind of a thankless job when they're coming down training and holding tackle bags, but it's what you needed to get at this top level. So, it's been a full squad effort.
And with the side under the guidance of Johnny Murphy, what's that been like, kind of training under him and having him kind of coach you throughout the season?
Yeah, it's been really good. Like, Johnny's a top coach, albeit he's only in the coaching world a few years, but it's where he's been in it, over 10 years. He's a lot of knowledge. He's very clear in the way he wants us to play. And he lets it be player driven, which is good. So, he kind of sets out the plays, but gives us the freedom to kind of do what we want in the pitch. So he's been really good, and I know Johnny a few years now, because when he finished his professional career down in Munster, he actually came back to Naas and played a few seasons as a player coach. So I was still on the Naas team at that stage with Johnny. So I know him well, and now for him to be coaching me it's kind of mad, but we have a good bond as well and talk to each other a good bit. And as I say, it's a good coach to have when he believes in the players, and he kind of gives us the freedom just to go out and enjoy ourselves and express ourselves. And he's top notch.
And I think the whole club and everyone involved at Naas are just producing a number of players, whether it's for the underage setup provincially or senior level. And how great is that to see, as someone so involved at the club, to see young players coming through into the provincial scene?
Oh, it's brilliant. It's great. And the club is thriving, as I said, not just at senior level, but the women's team are going well, and the underage is doing really well. Like, every Saturday morning, it's one of the most successful and busiest minis on a Saturday morning. So that's great, because that's where where most of the lads started their career, and to go on up through the club. And then whether they continue playing for Naas, or they just stop playing, or they go on to bigger and better things in the provincial game, it gives young guys coming out of school kind of motivation and saying, okay, this could be a possible route, play a few seasons with Naas and kick on through then into the pro game. So it's good, and there's a good buzz down on Saturdays, and they're coming down to watch us, and it's great then to watch them do their thing on the professional side of things. So it's really good, and the club is in a good spot at the moment, thank God.
And then in terms of the start of your career, were you always involved at Naas, or did you play elsewhere?
No, always part of Naas. My parents' house is actually right beside Naas Rugby Club, so I grew up right beside it, and we have a little gap in the back ditch that brings us out onto the pitches. So probably first walked out of there when I was 4 or 5 and had a rugby ball in hand, and played all the way up. And then I went to secondary school in Newbridge College, so you play with the college instead of Naas. And then I came back and played 20s with Naas, and this is my 10th year senior at Naas. So as a senior, I haven't played with anyone else senior bar Naas. So it's my home club. It means a lot, and to be captain this year, I'm very honoured and privileged to do it, and to be a captain of such a good bunch of guys that really want to play. It makes my job a little bit easier.
And we do a lot of kind of coverage around the schools rugby across the country, really. And how important was that maybe to your ability? And do you think it really helped you when you were playing in the junior cups or senior cup teams with Newbridge?
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, it kind of gives you, we're training 3 or 4 days a week after school, and it kind of shows you what it could be like. And I think now with Johnny Murphy, our head coach, also the director of rugby at Newbridge College, he's kind of made that link now with Newbridge and Naas. So, hopefully over the next few years we continue to get rugby players out of that, and also the local Naas CBS. They've produced the likes of Peter Osbourne and stuff. So there's plenty of young talent there, and it's just about lads making that next step up into senior. And it's all about the enjoyment, because if lads aren't enjoying it, they'll walk away at 19 or 20 years of age. So they need to first of all enjoy it, and obviously the standard's good. So it's good at the moment, and hopefully we can continue with that.
And then kind of in terms of maybe a 3 year or 5 years time, where do you see Naas being in the AIL scene? Do you want to be competing obviously up at that top end of Division 1A, and do you think it's really achievable?
I think so, yeah. As I say, this is my 10th year senior. When I first came back to Naas from Newbridge, Naas were a Division 2B or 2C club at the time. I've been lucky enough to be involved in 2 promotions, from 2B to 2A and then 2A to 1B. And now this is my, I think, 5th or 6th year with Naas in 1B. We've already been in 2 promotion playoffs that didn't go our way. But, so we're definitely holding our own in 1B. And I think the next step is definitely 1A. But that's a challenge in itself. It's huge. It's not as easy as it sounds. You don't want to just go up and come straight back down. There's a few boxes to tick, but I think all roads are pointing towards that direction, and it's definitely achievable considering we've held our own in 1B for the last few years.
And then just finally, Peter, if I was to ask you off the top of your head the best passer of the ball that you played with, who would you say to me?
Best passer of a ball, I would say probably a guy called Darragh O'Shea, who was player coach with me back a few years ago. He played with Clontarf for a few years, an ex-Newbridge College man himself, and then he came on, and as I was just starting with Naas, he was kind of player coach at the time. I learned a lot off him, so he had a great pass of a ball, kind of a 10-12 guy, and was a good all-round baller.
And then best kicker?
Probably Craig Ronaldson, who's back playing with us this year now. He's a ex-Connacht, and he's player coach with us this year, and he's a left footer, good boot, and whether it's goal kicking for touch, or just 50-22s or something like that, he's a guy that can have the ball in the string at times. So I'd say Craig.
Best tackler?
Best tackler, I would say Paul Monaghan, our back row, second row. He's a guy that just tackles all day long, and chop tackles at the ankles, just really good technique. And yeah, he just is an unbelievable tackler.
And then finally, the best leader that you might have played under and got a lot of your leadership skills from? Best
leader, I would say Johnny. Johnny is definitely up there, as in, because I've seen both sides of Johnny now, where he was coming back from the pro game, and I was a young guy, and he was taking over as player coach, and he kind of took me under his wing. And now for him to be coach and me to be captain, he's always kind of whispering in my ear, oh, maybe say this, maybe say that, and he lets me be myself as well. But I've learned a lot over him as being on the pitch, sharing the pitch with him as a player, and now as him being part of the management and me being on the pitch. We got good communication. I think he showed me a few tips how to be a leader, and hopefully I'm putting that in place.
Peter, it's been a pleasure having you on, and all the best for the weekend. And hopefully you'll be able to get up to that 1A. Joining us now on the show is Ballina's Mickey Murphy. Mickey, welcome to the Rugby Show.
Hi guys, how are you?
I am very good. So to start off, it's been a difficult enough campaign for Ballina, but how can you really sum it up?
I suppose, yeah, it's been difficult. Started off on a bright note, I suppose, winning the Connacht Senior League, and things were looking good and we're performing well. Went into the season, our first couple of games was very close. We thought we were making strides and stuff. Very competitive, drawing games. I think we drew 3 games in the first 7 or 8 games, and then lost a couple by within 2 or 3 points. And then we just got a few injuries, and maybe probably got into a small bit of a rush, I'd say. But look, we kept positive through it all, and look, we're in a situation we didn't envisage ourselves being in, but we're willing to fight it out, and hopefully it goes well for us.
Definitely. And then in terms of prep for the game at the weekend against Galwegians, how's that going? And is there a difference in how you're training maybe for this game, or is it pretty much the same as what you've been doing throughout the season?
I know it's exactly the same. We trust just what we're doing. We trust our coach and we're trusting ourselves. So for example, we're training Craig's tomorrow night. We have to train kind of up the country because we have players all over. Players in Dublin, Limerick, at loan. So everyone's just willing to travel and play for Ballina, which is great, which does give us a bit of a team bond and are willing to fight for each other. So yeah, we're just training as normal, just nothing different, same game. I know it's a cliche, but that's what it is. It's just another game for us. we know there's a bit of added hype and it's a big day for the club and everything, but as players, we just have to see it as another game. We understand what the stakes are, but it's just another game for us.
Yeah, and obviously Galwegians aside, you know very well from Connacht and same division in the AIL, and results maybe haven't gone the way you wanted to against them in the AIL. And do you think that might nearly help you for the weekend, knowing what areas to improve on and where you need to be better?
Yeah. So the first game away in Galwegians, we didn't play well. We didn't play well at all. Like we just didn't function as a team. Definitely our worst performance of the year. By a long shot. It was disappointing, that game. And then against Ballina, in Ballina at home, probably just a bit of shadow boxing because the game was, we knew we were coming into these two games. I don't think anyone was showing their hand. More just kind of feeling each other out and stuff. Look, ideally, it wouldn't be two teams in Connacht down fighting for it. I prefer if, might be a bit harsh to say, but I prefer if it wasn't two Connacht teams. But look, it's one or the other. But I prefer, even if we weren't in the battle, I wouldn't like to see Wegians going down. But unfortunately, we're in that battle, and it's going to be one of us. But I believe we have the stuff. I have to believe that we're going to win. But look, it's on the day.
And you said there about kind of people traveling far and wide to be involved at Ballina, whether they're working elsewhere, and how important is that kind of all-in attitude that the squad have and that competition for places?
Yeah, like we're a small squad, and we're playing with they're all local players. So every player basically that's played this year for Ballina have played underage for the club the whole way through. So I seriously doubt there's many senior teams in the country that are doing that. And we believe, like, we're a very young team. We all buy into it. We believe that it's the sustainable way for the club to go forward. So, yeah, it's incredible. It's great for me to be able to play with some of these young fellas. I could be in 15 years' time looking back, watching these lads play and saying, I played rugby with them. I'd be in my 50s.
And then, like Division 2B, in my opinion, is the most competitive league, and if not, it's definitely up there. And there's some very strong teams this season. And is there one that's maybe stood out for you as being the best team that you've played against this campaign?
Greystones. Just function very well as a team. And if you make a mistake, they pounce and they score. And that's just a sign of a good team that together a lot, but just a good team, good throughout, solid, good pack, good backs, really good 10 that controls them. And again, if you make a mistake, you know about it. To me, that's a good team.
Definitely, it really is. And then for yourself, a big milestone for you this year, you played your 450th game for the club. And I think when I first saw it on Twitter, I was like, that's amazing. So how does it feel for you, and has time flew by for you?
Yeah, it has, yeah. The first I found out about it was the Wednesday night before training of that game, and our captain, Luke Sweeney, said it. He goes, and it's a big milestone for Mickey this weekend. It's 450th game, and I actually thought he was taking the piss out of me. Like, I didn't believe him, and I came home, and then I kind of found out that they were marking the occasion. So I actually didn't know anything about it leading up to the game. I just tried to play the game and stuff. I enjoyed it afterwards. Like, they gave me a cap with my name and the 450 cap on it, and it was nice. My family were down there as well. My wife and my mum and all were down there. So, like, yeah, my brother and my sisters, my brothers and my sister were there. So yeah, it was lovely for my family. Yeah, and I suppose, like, it was just a great honor. I don't know, like, it's strange being honoured for playing the game, if that makes sense. You're just going out playing games. You're getting to do the most enjoyable part of rugby is play the games, and you're kind of being honoured for that, if that makes sense. I find that a bit strange.
And then over the course of them 450 games, do you remember, if we go back to your debut, what was it like then, and was it a different Mickey Murphy playing as it is now?
I'd like to think I've calmed down a bit, but I have a nickname that might suggest otherwise, but I won't tell you that.
You're willing to share it on the podcast, no?
No, I'm all right.
No.
Yeah, I'd be a bit fiery and stuff. I suppose all scrum halves are at the end of the day. But yeah, I started when I was 18. Ballina were actually senior back then as well. It was 03-04 season. And we were competitive enough that season. Played a bit of wing fullback and scrum half as well. And then went into the second season AIL, and we just weren't good enough. We weren't competitive. We got relegated that year. And then we just started building again as a junior club, and we weren't performing that well. And we kind of stuck it out and kept plugging away, got our underage system right, and we just got back to senior, and here we are now.
And over the course of them years, is there a proudest moment for you that sticks out, maybe apart from the 450th game? Is there any one moment that sticks in your head as maybe the pinnacle of your rugby career?
It's not the pinnacle, but it's the most enjoyable. I always think of it as the Junior Cup. I can't remember the year, actually. It was 6 years ago now. And it was the moment I knew we're going in the right direction. So the Connacht Junior Cup, the first one we won against Westport in the sports grounds, it kind of, for me, it's where you knew the club were going somewhere again. Some great days along the way, like winning stuff and winning, went to senior and beating big teams. But that was just the one, and it was an unbelievable celebration afterwards as well. So that probably just sticks out in my mind.
And then beating a fellow Mayo team as well, I'd say it has to be up there as well in terms of rivalry. But if you see it over maybe the next 3 to 5 years for Ballina, where do you think would be a realistic place for you to be in the AIL setup? Do you think that you can maybe push on to the higher divisions, or do you think holding your own here is maybe a short-term goal?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I won't lie to you, I don't really want to give an answer to it, but I'd like to see just Ballina just like really holding their own in whatever division we're in. Ideally, I don't think there's any reason we can't get promoted out of the division we're in. I believe that. I believe we have a lot of kids that got experience this year, and that will stand to them. At the start of the year, we played against some of the bigger teams, and we're really competitive against them. We possibly should have won a lot more than we did, and shouldn't be in this battle. But I don't see any reason why we can't get promoted out of this division and hold our own in 2A. Maybe someone might disagree with me, but that's what I'd see. Maybe I'm naive. I don't know, but that's how.
I definitely agree with you, and I think at this level of rugby, it's all about fine margins, and it's a couple of points here or there which can really propel you up the table. And maybe there's just the look of the ball sometimes and where it bounces, and you're definitely a side that I think when I've watched you play, you haven't been someone who you think is in the relegation playoff. You play good free flowing rugby as well, and I suppose if you do overcome Galwegians going again next year, starting fresh could be good for you.
Yeah, definitely. Like plans are already in place for next season. Getting players, you have to start these things early. And look, whatever situation we find ourselves in, we're resilient. We'll go at it again, and we'll whatever the situation is. I think there's great buy-in at the moment with the players and the structures we're trying to put in place. I'm really excited about some of the young players that are coming through. I'm obviously not going to name names because I forget someone and
get yourself
in trouble. Do that, but yeah.
We will end finally. We like to do a bit of a quick fire round, and I think you're going to have a whole array of players to choose from maybe with this. So if I was to ask you the best passer you've ever played with, who would you say to me?
Best passer, Kieran Lindsay.
Kicker.
Haven't played with him that long. Harry West.
Tackler.
It's effortless with him. Tackler.
Yeah.
David Newman.
And then finally, best leader that you played with, someone that always got everyone riled up and ready for the task ahead.
I'm going to say currently, there's two lads that I love playing with because it's just all or nothing with them. It's our captain, Luke Sweeney, and Callum Quinn. They're just ferocious, and you'll you'd follow them into anything. Like you couldn't but be inspired to play with them. I mean that.
Mickey, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on. So thanks so much for joining us, and all the best for the game against Galwegians. Joining us now on the Rugby Show is Diarmuid Kearney. Diarmuid, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for having me on this week.
And I suppose we have to start with these semi-finals in Division 2A and Queen's University against Ballina. How do you see that one playing out?
I suppose it's hard not to look at Queen's as being the overwhelming favourites going into the game. I mean, they were sitting in first place the majority of the year. They've been dominant in the division. It's very rare that they've lost a game. They've only lost 2 games so far this year. And credit to Ballina, they are a decent team, but Queen's University have shown grit and fire to be the outstanding dominant team. It's been a case since I'd say the opening week where Queens have their try scoring abilities. I mean, if you look at the numbers they've clocked this year in terms of their scoring, it's been outstanding so far this year. So Ballina definitely have an uphill battle against them this weekend if they want to progress further, but my money's definitely on Queens this weekend, unfortunately, for any Ballina supporter.
And I think for anyone who's involved with Queens, it would be a real disappointment if they didn't go up, especially with the form that they've shown throughout the season. And in that other semi-final, it's Cashel against Buccaneers, 2 very evenly matched sides. I think on paper, could you call that one, do you think? Or do you think it's really who turns up on the day?
I think it could be a case of who turns up on the day. I suppose with the way the league has gone this year, as you mentioned there, Queens will obviously be disheartened having been the league leader for so long that it's not a format of if you top the league, you go up. I think they won't be happy with that. But Cashel have had a remarkable turnaround the season. At the start of it, they had games called off due to COVID outbreaks. I think the first couple of weeks, it was only the few points that they had, but from the drawn games, they couldn't put a win together. Then they turned their fortunes around, winning either 10 or 11 games on the spin. And then they finished second in the table, and they had a remarkable turnaround. Bucks, to their credit, though, have been a team that can come good when needed. They mightn't have had the best of form toward the latter stages of the season, but they managed to get into the playoff places anyway. So I think it will be hard to call, but I think Cashel might just edge it just because of their tenacity to have turned around a season where you were near the bottom of the table, maybe in October, November time, and then they just turned it around. And I think Queens were the team that stopped them in the end. And I suppose we could be seeing the top 2 technically in the division going at it in the final, but it's going to be tough to call. I think the AIL leagues have been tough to call, especially in 2A, but I think Cashel might just edge it on the day.
And then going down to the bottom of the league table, and it's Rainey against Nina. 2 sides who have struggled this year and maybe not reached the heights that they would have wanted to. What way do you see that one going?
Yeah, I suppose when you're talking about Cashel and then their Tipperary counterparts in Nina haven't had the best of starts to the season. They were poor at times. I thought they might have done a little bit better on occasions. They had put in some really good performances. They couldn't get the job done. Rainey, to their credit, they have been that little bit better than Nina throughout the year. I know it's going to be a dogfight down there because you're looking at, okay, we know we're in the relegation zone now, and it's going to come down to who can get the job done and who wants to stay in 2A. And it's going to be tough to call this one because Rainey have been just that little bit more consistent. They have gotten their scores, but they have, I suppose, the same as Nina, they have been on the end of some heavier defeats in the competition. But for me, I might have to give it to the Ulstermen on that one. I just don't think Nina have it this year. If they don't progress and they go down to 2B, I think they could put in a good enough performance next year, but I can't see them. Now, I could be proved wrong this weekend, but I think Rainey might just have that. It might be a tight one, but I can see them getting over the line in the end.
And then down to another division that you've covered, Division 2C, and another runaway leader, Enniscorthy. With any other year, they would have been promoted. They face Tullamore. Do you think it will be Enniscorthy's to lose?
I think similar to Queens, Enniscorthy will be they will be annoyed with themselves if they don't go up this year. They have been outstanding. I mean, at the start of the year, it looked like it was going to be Skerries, who are another team that are in the competition, or in the playoff, should I say, that were kind of the early favourites in the league, and in Escorty were just chasing them a bit, and then Skerries started to hilter a little bit, and in Escorty took off, and once in Escorty got going, they haven't looked back. They've been dominant. They've been ruthless in terms of their performances. Tullamore got there in the end. They managed to get that last spot, and look, they're going to be chomping at the bit to try and to overthrow the runaway league leaders. They want to get up into 2B just as much as in Escorty. But definitely, as you said there, it is in Escorty's to lose. But like, if they put in the performances that they've put in so far this year, I can't see them falling at the final hurdle to Tullamore this weekend.
And then in that other semi-final, it's Skerries against Bangor. And I think one thing with this game, with the two sides being very evenly matched, I think that home advantage could be massive for Skerries. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, Skerries have been good at home this year. I suppose Bangor would be annoyed that they couldn't chase them down in the latter stages of the season and try and maybe finish second to have gotten that advantage. But you know, going to Skerries will never be easy. Of course, you're on the seaside there, and they have had some good performances, but they have been beaten at home as well. And you know, they know that if they had gotten maybe their performances a little bit better at times this year, they could have challenged in Escorty a little bit better. They could have maybe got to the top of the table and would have been in the other one against Tullamore. It's hard to call. But I think that's probably going to be the tighter of the two affairs this weekend in that division in the playoffs. It's tough, but Bangor have some fantastic players in their ranks, and I think that they might just edge it. But it all comes down to the day. Anyone looks good on paper, but if you don't put in the performances, you're going to be stuck in the division next year. But it is tough with this format that teams are going to have to go through this to try and get up. But look, I think it's going to be a building block for all teams who are in the playoffs for next year anyway.
And then just a quick mention for the relegation playoff down at the bottom there, and two sides that are fighting for their AIL status, and that's Clonmel against City of Derry. And then just moving on to Division 2B, Greystone face Galway Corinthians at Dr. Hickey Park. Belfast Harlequins host Blackrock College at Diarmuid Park, while Galwegians face Ballina in that first leg of the relegation playoff. Diarmuid, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll have to tune in next week to see if your predictions have come true.
No worries, Luke. Thanks for having me on.
I'm afraid that is all we have time for tonight on the Rugby Show, but make sure to tune in next week at the same time, where we'll take a look at all of the results from this weekend's games. We'll also have extensive coverage over on finalwhistle.ie for all of the semi-final AIL games and relegation playoffs. Bye for now.